Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self. Good morning. I don't know what happened to my lovely co-host. Looks like she had to exit out of nowhere. I believe I'm live. So we've had a couple of random things go wrong this morning. Miss Roxanne was not able to join us. Apparently there are some really bad storms in the UK, and that is affecting her ability to get to the internet. And then clearly Sarah's having some issues as well. But good morning, badasses. I hope you're all out there. If you could say hello, that would be wonderful and certainly make me a little more comfortable that I'm not going to just be talking to no one for the next 59 minutes. So it's Friday the 13th, and we were hoping to have our psychic friend Roxanne here, but she is not available because of the storms. So we're going to just be talking about other things that are Friday the 13th. And there she is.
Oh my gosh. Like right as we're going live, my camera just went. It's like, we can't connect to any of your devices. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kate, I can't even let you know.
It's okay. I figured it out and I just started talking and I was like, and then I was like, and if you're here,
I had to leave everything all together in order to, I was like, I hope it stays connected because I'm about to leave.
Well, it totally worked. I was live. You'll have
I
to
could
watch
hear you, but you
Okay.
couldn't tell I was there whatsoever.
Right. And then you came on and you came in and out a couple of times. So
it is a Friday 13. Oh my God.
Yes.
I love Friday 13th and I love number 13, but today, holy shit, it has been a Friday 13th.
Maybe once you start like publicizing your things like we are doing, you're just inviting these randomness to come into your life.
Well, so it's interesting. I really was looking forward to having Roxanne join today. And she called this morning or messaged me. She's like, I hope you get this. She's like, we had a really bad storm last night. She sent me like a screenshot of the internet and everything is down where she's at. And so I was only able to connect with her through WhatsApp. She's actually out of the UK. So she's several hours ahead of us. And she was like, how about we do it later on at noon? And I was like, Roxanne, we're live. Like, there is no like later on in the day.
Oh,
I felt so bad. But, one of the things that she told me while I was meeting with her about my dad and things like that is she goes, have you noticed that you've been having things happen from an electrical perspective and electronics perspective? Because what she said is that a lot of times, and this is what I was concerned about this morning with her, is that she does tend to cause like electrical things. And she said here recently, she said, you've been coming into sort of knowing a little bit more about yourself. And she said, I'm curious if you've noticed things that have been happening electronically. And I'm like, I have been. And I'm like, I'm really good at technology, but like what just happened? I have no idea what just happened. It just completely went out. I've never seen that type of notification before. And I was like, well, IT people, turn it off, turn it on.
Yep. But that's like all you can do. Well, good morning to our audience here. The first person I believe is my wife. Good morning, Jenna. Thank you.
She made it up. So she had an interesting time last night as well.
Yeah, well, no, this is
Oh no,
she's
it's
got
the
her big
26th.
event.
That's on the
Yes, yes,
26th. Sorry, I'm confusing
yes.
dates. So
That's
she's going to be
okay.
doing a tarot reading on the 26th coming up. And so that
Yes,
will
she has a
be
big
cool.
party locally here. So
Yeah.
I know Kim was disappointed. She was like, "Oh, it's not virtual," and I was like, "No, it's a
I
local little thing."
know.
So, good badass morning, Eric.
Good morning, Eric. And then we have Kim. She said, "Good morning, beautiful Kate." And then I think she said, "Yay, that I finally was able to figure out getting on."
Yeah.
And then we got Bruce. He said, "Let's get all badass and shit." And then later on,
Yes.
he gave us a heart next to the 13.
Yes.
Kim said, Friday 13. Yes. And then she said, "Yes, it's me. Happy 13." So she's been having fun on doing all kinds of photos and things like that. I know she loves
Yes.
Halloween. We love Halloween, and it's coming up. And so I'm looking forward to that. So today, just to sort of set the stage, so this is how Kate and I work. We are really good at, well, shit didn't work the way they planned. What are we going to do next? And so
Yep.
today we're actually going to talk about superstition. We're going to talk about your favorite Halloween movies, the ones that traumatize you. So we want to have a conversation with you guys today and sort of shoot the shit today, sort of a, this is what we are going to, but we're going to still keep with the theme and also talk about psychics as well. And so
Yeah.
we have some things that I was able to quickly get together as well, but that's ultimately what we want to talk to you guys about today.
Yeah, it'll be a great time. It's like a shoot the shit with a superstitious psychic slant to it, guys. So you can only get that type of shit here.
Exactly. And so I'm going to pull this up. So it's Friday the 13th. Have a killer day.
Killer day.
I actually did this graphic on a past Friday the 13th, and I posted it out on LinkedIn just to have fun. And I had so many people that reacted to it in the past that just loved it and thought it was hilarious.
It is. I love it too.
I see we have Stephanie joining us this morning as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I know.
So that whole, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so, messing with electronics. So maybe it was, I don't know, 8-ish years ago, we were living in Milwaukee and Jenna broke our microwave. And she said, "I have to tell you that I'm pretty sure I broke it." And I was like, "How?" And she's like, "Well, it was like running. And then I like stood in front of it and it like stopped." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I just, like a lot of things she tells me, I just blindly believe it because like, I know she wouldn't lie to me. So I'm just like, okay, I've never heard of that. That's fucked up. And then we very soon after, like 2 or 3 weeks later, we were in the Dells in a resort, at the resort that we go to. We get a room with a kitchen and she broke the morning there. She broke the microwave there, like the same exact way. And this time I saw it and I was like, oh my God. And then literally 6 months later, she broke the new microwave in our house in the same way. And then it all stopped. But then recently, like 2 weeks ago, the same thing happened to me. Our microwave was running. I walked in front of it. And before I could even reach the button to stop it, because we have it kind of high, it stopped. And Jenna and the kids were sitting right there and they were like, "What?" And we got it to work again, but it was very strange. So I think it's a real thing. I really do think it can happen.
You think it's because of someone's energy? It just stops?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, up until this one, these other microwaves, like they were dead in the water. Like there was no reason. One of them was 6 months old. I mean, the first one was pretty old, but the other one was in this resort, and then this new one that was like 6 months old. We were like, what? So then I just bought like the crappiest microwave. I was like, well, I'm not going to spend like $300 on a microwave that my wife's going to somehow magically break, like, so then we just, and now, we have like a really cheap one that's lasted quite a while.
Sometimes you just got to get the cheap stuff. I don't know what
Mhm.
it is. Sometimes you buy the most expensive things and it breaks and you get so mad and you just like we got a TV, we had an outside TV and I was like, I'm not
Mhm.
going to spend like all this money on an outside TV to then have it break down. Let's just get a cheap one. And then if if it breaks, I won't feel bad about then having to get another one.
Right, exactly. I'm kind of on that mode in general. I mean, just being a parent of 6 kids in the house
Oh
and
yeah.
how destructive they can be unintentionally or intentionally, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so like I'm on the, especially with electronics, it's like, no, let's get the cheap one because we don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah. So Adam's joining us. Good morning, Adam. Thanks for joining
Yeah.
us again. He said, good morning, badasses. Thanks to troublemaking Bruce for the reminder. Thank you, Bruce. And so,
Yeah.
Adam, I don't know if you heard, but the person we had planned on having today is actually having some Friday 13th issues. So they had a storm in the UK, and so her phone and internet and everything is down. I was able to. She said I sounded like a robot as I was talking to her. She was like, "Sarah, you sound like a robot. Like the internet and the cellular was like that's low."
Yeah.
Sounded like a robot. All right. So someone said,
This is Jenna.
okay, my dad was a cowboy through and through, and so superstitious that he wouldn't leave the house on Friday the 13th. So I got a tattoo to torture him. It's an upside, is it upside down horseshoe?
Yep, upside
With,
down. Yep.
with a number 13 in it.
Yes. There is actually this tattoo shop, which we no longer are big fans of because of various issues, but they in Milwaukee do on Friday the 13th, they typically do $13 tattoos. And so you
Ooh.
can come in and it's very busy, and it's like, you end up paying $20 with tip and they do these like small little tattoos. So one time Jenna did that just for like the ritual of it, just for something fun to do. She usually has something planned for us on every single Friday the 13th. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not quite sure what we're doing today. There's a few options, but we
Okay.
will have something going on. Yeah.
So Adam said, "Oh no, the badassery must go on." Yeah. So today we're going to talk about superstitions, and then also let's maybe start with. Should we start with superstitions or should we start with the Halloween type stuff? What do you guys think? Ooh, Bruce said he was
Yeah.
born on the 13th. Oh, but it was not a Friday, but obviously
some
had some birthdays on the 13th. Yeah.
yeah.
And so it's funny, I have a friend of ours that his birthday is today. And so I haven't wished him a happy birthday yet, but I'll wish him a happy Friday the 13th birthday today.
Yeah. It's just funny. And it's funny how long this history has been, right? So like
Mhm.
there are buildings without floors 13. There are
Well, we have some
airports that don't
construction
have
people
gates.
here. I'm curious
Yeah.
about, we're in the architectural engineering and construction industry. Do you guys still do
Right.
buildings
You still
without
see
a
that?
13? Because I've seen hotels, like you said. And then you mentioned earlier that sometimes airports don't have a gate 13. So I'm
Yes.
curious we have some people in the AEC industry. What have you noticed? Is that something you just do a part of your design or as you're building things? So I'm curious
Yes.
to get your feedback on the number 13. And so maybe let's ask the group, what is something you are superstitious about? And man, if I had known we were going to talk about superstition, I would be wanting to have someone sing some
Super.
Superstitious by Stevie
Stevie
Wonder.
Wonder.
I love that song. And so, breaking, so growing up, it was breaking glass. It was being around a black cat, which I owned a black cat. So I was definitely not superstitious about black cats. And I always loved the number 13. So, like, I would just be like, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. My parents didn't have superstitions. So I didn't like grow up with it like Jenna did. So it didn't, I actually didn't really realize how prevalent it was until I went to college, and the dorm the dorm hall that I lived in and then later was an RA in, did not have a level 13. It had no, but I ended up living on what it would have been the 13th floor. So yeah, so I was in, mine was, I think it was labeled 14, but it should have been 13,
Yeah.
So
Is this Jenna?
no, so this is someone from LinkedIn.
Oh,
If you could go to streamyard.com//LinkedIn, then
I
you
think that's
can,
the link.
yeah, then you can tell us what your name is, but it'd be great. You can also do it in the comments. We'd love to know who you are, but this is really cool. So your most animated and fun child born on a Friday the 13th. That is wicked cool.
Yeah. So July 1st.
July.
So that was like right before 9/11 too. Now that I'm looking at the date.
Yes.
So
yes.
Friday the 13th, having a kid, and then that. And so, but I love the fact that they're the most animated fun child on Friday the 13th. You know, and my friend that I wonder if they were born on Friday the 13th, my friend's birthday that is today, very fun, very animated as well. So wonder if that's great.
Yeah, and I tend to think, I don't know if it's from experience, but I feel like people that were born around Halloween are always obsessed with Halloween. Like or they love scary things or creepy things, and I don't, that could come from just always having your birthday around, such a holiday, but it also could be, it makes them little creeps.
Yeah. So do you guys have any superstitions, anything that, and I'm curious about the audience. Is there anything that growing up you were like, I worked for a company once that you could not wear the color red. So not only did they not have red flowers, they did not have red anywhere. And it was very interesting. It was hardened construction, but the person that I think it was the owner, did not like the red because they equated it to being in the red. So it was like a negative for them. And from what I heard, they the person that planted flowers did some red flowers, and they were like, pull those things up, like get rid of them. And so I thought that was an interesting superstition, that being at a company that they were like, no, don't wear red, like don't wear a red outfit, don't wear a red power suit, that type of thing.
We are anti-red here.
Okay, I won't wear red.
It's a pretty central color too. It's really interesting that he did that.
I mean, we're red with Full Sail, so I wear red all the time now.
Right. And we're doing fine financially. So I will say I love a lot of colors. And if I had to pick, I would pick green as my favorite. But I always also love that green is one of the colors that really helps you manifest, finances.
Exactly.
So I do tend to try to paint my office, over the years in green, so my office is painted in green. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think that I'm maybe a little superstitious. Sometimes if I have a negative thought, I'll immediately go, oh, gotta have, the positive thought.
Right.
I feel that if you think about negative things, then those negative things are basically what brings you. So I don't know, is that superstitious, or is that just being, I always feel that
mindful,
what you put out there, or is that mindful? So I feel like what you put out in the universe, what you say is ultimately what the universe gives back to you. So is that superstitious? I don't know. And so we got some comments in here, by the way.
Yeah, I would love to read these.
So Bruce said, I played hockey as a boy And in other sports, 13 was not an issue, but it was never allowed as a number in hockey until much later. I always assumed it was a Canadian thing, as at the time, the US was not as big of an influence as it is today. So, yeah,
Yeah.
number 13. I didn't think about that with sports, but I was always 33. So I didn't do 13, but I don't think they had a number 13 for sports, for
No.
jerseys and things like that. Now that I
Yeah,
think about it.
probably not. They it was Amy Ballasone that had Callie, her one of her
Oh,
daughters that was born on the 13th, and then she married Kobe, who shares the exact same birthday. So that's interesting, and we see a lot of that, like synergies around numbers, and between couples.
absolutely.
Sports is a really common place for superstitions, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Oh,
can read about all of the famous, like Michael Jordan had lucky shorts and all sorts of things. I will say that Jenna does a similar thing to what Harden did. And she's not been as crazy about it this year or last year, but she's a diehard Packer fan. And if, she would, everyone had to wear Packer stuff, but if we had a jersey on and then like blue pants and we were playing the Lions, she would be like, go change your pants. What the hell are you doing? And then she would, like, if we were losing, she'd be like, look around the room. She'd be like, okay, who has red underwear on? Check your underwear. What color is your underwear? Go change. And we would all do it because it was hilarious, but
she's like, come on, whose fault is it in here? It's
yes,
only us in this room that is causing the issue.
Yes. Well, and the kids believe it, right? So because they've also feel like they've manifested touchdowns in the past,
I remember
they
that.
believe this. Yes. So this is like, so like we just all do it, like there's no harm. That's the thing about superstitions. A lot of time they aren't causing harm.
Right.
They're there. But the interesting thing about them is you really think about it, it's their like coping mechanisms for events that we are anxious about, that where we want something good to happen, So, if you have any embarrassment or guilt around a superstition that you hold, maybe just look at it a different way. Like, this is just how I'm moving into this event because I want some control over it. And, I can't control it, but this makes me feel a little better going into it, which pumps your mood up, which makes you more effective. So like I said, no harm.
Yep. It looks like someone else has joined. So they said, good morning. So no, not sure who that was. And so let us know. You can go to streamyard.com/Facebook just to let us know that you are here. So Bruce said, hey, did my Raiders just beat the Packers? Just saying.
We don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. So it's like, what are we supposed to do? I mean, who knows?
All right.
But so they did.
A Facebook user, not sure who this is, Italians actually believe that red brings luck. So to wear red underwear will bring you money.
I'm Italian and I have not heard of that. I will ask my dad, but I'm going to order some red underwear because why not?
I feel like I wear red all the time anyways, just because of Full Sail, I now get red of all kinds of things. So
red was my mom's favorite color. So she had it everywhere. And she was a purse fiend and very into nice clothes. So very like her wardrobe and shoes and purses, all very red. And then her car is always red, for my whole life. Like when she could control what car she was getting, it was a red one. So red always has a special place in my heart. And then when we did her celebration of life, we made it very red. It was during COVID, well, we waited like a year, but COVID was still around. And we wore red masks, everything was red.
That's awesome. I'm not sure what Eric means. And maybe he's going to go change his underwear to red.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. If you have any red underwear. Yeah.
So, okay, Kate, so let's switch topics a little bit. And I want to tell this story first before we get into these different things. So, my daughter recently told me that when we leave the house, she loves it because she just screams to the top of her lungs. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, so you just feel like you're getting energy out? And she's like, yes. And so I'm curious along these lines of I equate screaming sometimes to also Halloween, because when we do Halloween, we do it full out. And we had a video camera that was videoing one year because we have that ring on the front of our door, and so it was capturing everybody, and we had like this dog that would jump out and scare the shit out of everyone. And last year I had dressed up in this like white outfit and everything, and we have fog and all of this, and it was just very scary. Like kids couldn't even see me at first. We have the 7-foot clown. We have like, it is just decked out. And I had parents that were like, this is what Halloween's supposed to be like, scaring the shit out of my kids. And so it was just hilarious to like watch them all.
Isn't it like, it's a fine line in some degree, but I didn't realize that earlier. But I will say that we tend, as humans, right, as parents, we tend to think it's hilarious when our kids get scared. And and it's really super enjoyable, because they're adorable when they get scared, or it's just very funny. So we have, in our crew, we have everyone to varying degrees, and it's a running thing because Jenna does love Halloween so much, there's always scary aspects. So we tend to we didn't decorate a ton. When we go fall camping, we decorate. And that's kind of a cool little like culture. I don't know if it's there, but like I'd be interested to know if other people out in the across the country experience this. But I didn't really realize it prior to us doing this, that like when you go to a campground around Halloween, they're all decked out for Halloween, like, so this campground that we were at last weekend had, every single site. So you could walk it and like be experiencing like a really cool trick or treat. And then this was a homeschool group thing. So they did do trick or treating. But have you guys experienced that in campgrounds, like in the month of October?
I don't think that I've ever gone during the month of October. We always went in, early September or earlier, right, during the summer things when we were out of school growing up. So I don't know. That's very interesting.
I see Reno Long Moons is here. She says, good morning.
We're going to have Reno Long Moons on probably, I think it's sometime in November. I can't remember which day. And so excited to have her on. And so thank you for joining us. And so I don't know if you just joined us, but today we're now just sort of shooting the shit on superstitions and also about Halloween and screaming and things that have traumatized you, because our guest had some technical issues and so wasn't able to join. But Kate, I want to go back to the screaming. As I started to look at screaming, one of the other things that I found is that both screaming and alarms actually trigger activity in the amygdala, which is the brain region that is linked to processing and remembering fear. And so, yelling and things like that can actually increase release endorphins, or which are known as sort of the happy hormones. And so much like when we get high, when we're doing exercise, things like that, but it can trigger the brain's receptors to reduce pain and increase strength. And so I was just curious, with my daughter screaming, is she, is the purpose for her to like let go? But as I talked to her, she said that the reason that she screams is because dad won't let her scream when he is there, because he can't handle
triggered.
He gets triggered, and he is like, he's like, what is
Frantic?
going on? Like he goes into protection mode and he gets so
Mm-hmm.
upset when someone screams in the house. But I got to
Mm-hmm.
tell you, for my daughter's, it was the last birthday, I think we did a clue, but the kids didn't know what we were going to do. And so we
Mm-hmm.
hadn't given them any heads up on the games. We were playing like other games and stuff like that. And I went over and I was like, come here, Riley. And I brought her over and I was like, okay, we're going to do it. And so she didn't know what I was about to do. She knew I was going to turn the lights on or to turn the lights off. And so I turned the lights off and I screamed the highest pitch because I have a very high pitched scream. And when I turned the lights back on, one of the other kids was underneath the table, like, I'm not a part of this. Like, I don't know what's about to happen, but I am not here. I am hiding. And I was like,
Oh,
oh my gosh. But I scared the crap out of them. But it was interesting to watch each of them on how they reacted. Like some of them were like, I know what we're about to play, because I was
mm-hmm.
like, there's been a murder. And some of them were super excited because they knew we were going to play Clue. And other ones were
Right.
like, having to like revive themselves because they were so
Yeah.
traumatized by me screaming.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my
Our
gosh.
our kids have told us very similar things, actually. So,
Yeah.
when Jen and I come home from a date, our little ones will be like, "Oh, you're home too soon," where our older ones who are responsible are like, "Yeah,
Okay,
you
I'll leave
said you were
again.
gonna." Yeah, but right. So we're always like, right, should we go? We have a couple of times. We've just been like, all right, fine, we'll head back out. But we ask them why, and it's because they want to play really rough. They want to be super loud.
Oh yeah.
They want to do all the things that like they can't do when their parents are here, because like we can't live with 6 kids like screaming their freaking heads off, like
Yeah.
it's just too much. So that they love to do this. When I wonder how our dogs feel about it.
Yeah,
Our
I don't
cat.
know. We don't have any animals, so we don't have that issue. But I'm sure that they're like very alarmed, like what is going on, and they probably go
Right.
into protection mode too. Like, do I need to get someone? Or there's
Yeah.
sometimes. Have you ever seen dogs that are like, nope, like I don't know what's going on. I'm out of here.
Yes, right. They leave, they run. I wonder if you should tell your neighbors, like, hey, if you ever hear a lot of screaming, it could be Riley, It would be funny if they called the police and Riley was like,
I know exactly.
right.
Well, it looks like
Yeah.
Myra's joined. She said, "Good morning, happy Friday the 13th." And
Good
so I had
morning.
one other thing I did want to bring up as well. Since we don't have Roxanne joining us today, I did have this graphic that I thought was hilarious related to psychics. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is how she feels whenever she has a lot of people come to her. So the psychic client, he's married. He cheated on me 8 times. He slept with my cousin, ran off with my tax returns, gave me an STD, and ate up all the kids' Pop Tarts. But I just wanted to get a reading to know if he's the one. And so
It's so funny.
I talked to Roxanne and she said that sometimes she does get things like this. She's like, are you serious? Like all these things and you're still wanting to know, like, just tell me, is he the one? Like, why am I the one that needs to tell you he's not the one? Like, move
Right.
on.
But these people must know that if they're prefacing it with all of these bad things, they must want somebody to tell them no, in some way. It's very,
Just come to
very
me. I'll
strange.
tell you.
Right.
He's not the
Yeah.
one. I don't have to
Sarah's
be psychic to tell you that.
Yes. Sarah's very good at no. Yeah.
No.
Nope. It's a complete sentence, she always says.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
not the person.
So we could also share some psychic stories because we have some. So my family growing up, I was about maybe 11 or 12. I don't remember exactly, but I was I had a really rough couple years. It was right after some of the abuse that I experienced. And my mom was trying to get me into like safe activities, where because I was just struggling. So she got me into this volunteering, and I was volunteering with another woman, and we were helping kids with a play. Like it was a theater summer camp, which was super fun. And we were letting them kind of drive the show, and then we were all creating stuff together. It was awesome. So we were getting towards the end of the summer, and this woman, some of the kids were saying, Mrs. Adams, give us a reading, And I was like, what are they talking about? And she's like, oh, well, I taught them last year, but I'm also a psychic medium. And I was like, oh, okay. But I was young. And then my brother came to pick me up, my older brother, and she walked in and she said, you have some money coming to you very soon. And he was like, what? He was like 16. Like he didn't, he was like, what? And he ended up getting a check from his dad, for like a really random reason. Like some family member, had passed away and had, willed some money to his dad, and his dad wanted to share it with Tim and sent a check. So it was very unexpected and very strange. And so then, as Tim and I are telling my parents about it, everyone gets excited and we all start seeing this psychic. And so we have like a 30-year history of seeing this psychic. She's no longer really working, so unfortunately you can't see her anymore. But we have all of these stories about where things that she has, done, either the stories she's told us or things that we have experienced ourselves.
Yeah, I love that.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was this time where my mom was coming to visit her for a session. And she pulled in, and at the time she drove a red Volvo station wagon. And Kathy, the psychic, she had no clue what my mom drove, but she happened to see my mom pull up. And immediately she was like, you need to stay away from the intersection of Decorah and Indiana. She's like, when I saw your car, I just had a vision of an accident there with a red station wagon like the one you have. And my mom was like, I've actually seen there is another red Volvo that, somebody lives in West Bend and has this red Volvo. But my mom was like, okay, I'll just stay away from it. And sure enough, there was a bad accident, and it was on the front page of our little town daily news the next day. Oh, wow. So it was like crazy. We were like, oh, wow. Like,
was it the other red Volvo?
It was the other red Volvo. Oh my gosh. And no one got hurt, but like it was a bad accident. Some things were damaged, and they probably got hurt. No one was, there wasn't a fatality. Like, but yeah, crazy, right?
That is. So I'm curious, has anybody, so I'd like to have you guys participate. Give me a green heart if you have been to a psychic. Give me a yellow heart if you have thought about going to a psychic but haven't gone. And give me a red heart if you're like, hell no, I'm not going to a psychic. So I'm just curious what our audience thinks about going to a psychic. So green.
And I would separate it from like not a tarot card reader, like an actual psychic medium who sees spirits.
Yep. And so green is I've gone, yellow I'd like to go, and red, nope, no thank you. I don't want to connect to someone that has passed away and to understand things. So fill that out. Let us know what you think. I'm not sure what Kim is referring to. She said, I so love her. So I'm not sure what she's
probably Riley.
Oh, got you. Yeah.
She loves herself some Riley. Who doesn't? Anyone that knows that kid loves that kid. She's such a great personality and so sweet. But so unique, she's not boring sweet. She's like exciting sweet.
She's very exciting. So definitely. So
Mhm.
I have to tell you, so let's talk a little bit about maybe favorite movies as well as movies that have traumatized you. So I can tell you, for me, the movie that traumatized me growing up was Jaws. And so
Okay.
I was really young. I don't remember how young I was, but I was definitely like way early in elementary school. And I remember not wanting to get in the bathtub. For whatever reason, I thought that Jaws was going to come up through the drain. And looking back on it, you can't help but to laugh. Like, how is a shark going to come up through a drain? But I was like, Mom, I don't want to take a shower. I'm scared that Jaws is going to come through.
Well, yeah. I mean, fears are not rational most of the time.
Exactly.
Right. I don't have I don't have so my story, I don't have a particular movie because my parents we actually didn't watch a lot of TV when we were growing up.
Okay.
And then I just have not had a lot of interest in horror movies. I have watched more and more as being married to Jenna. Um, but I do have this vision. So I remember a scene from a movie or a show or something where I saw bugs like crawling all over a person's body. So I have this like image in my head that I've had for since I was a little kid. And this this story is also might be TMI, but it's still very funny. So when we had moved into a new house and it was I don't remember, but I remember that my we were kind of closer to the kitchen than we had been in our previous house. And so all the kids were like eating in their room and my parents were like, don't eat in your room. Like we're going to get ants or something. Like just don't eat in your room. And I still had snuck an apple and I had eaten an apple in my room and I had the core there. And my older brother came in and he said, Kate, if you keep eating in the room, ants are going to come in here and they are going to crawl into your vagina. That's what he told me. And I was like, when I could just picture this imagery with the ant with the bugs all over and that traumatized me forever. Like
Oh my.
forever. So if I see like an ant on my leg, I don't say it out loud or I don't freak out anymore, but I'm like, my immediate thought is, oh my God, it's going to go straight to my vagina. So I have to wipe it off and get rid of it.
Oh my God. That is very TMI, but that's so very BOYBAS.
Yes, and it's also real, right? Like people have these weird things that somebody has told them, and like kids talk about disgusting shit like that all the time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's extremely vulnerable. So that is awesome.
Yes. So I will always think of that.
Now, every time whenever we're together and you have an aunt, I'm immediately now going to think about that.
Right. You'll probably think about it other times too, even if I'm not
I
around.
know. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I want to go back real quick. Bruce had shared something earlier, and then here a little bit later. I thought I'm trying to find.
Yeah,
it.
he shared oh no, I think he shared
Oh yeah,
he said I love the ring and all Halloween. Yep.
yeah, and he loves The
Excellent.
Shining and The Exorcist. Ooh. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then he said later on, he said that not traumatized but loved The Ring.
Yeah.
And so Myra gave us a yellow, so she hasn't but would like to. And Bruce said, I've not gone, but I'm not against it. And I think this was related to Jaws. So Carmen said I was the same in lakes and in rivers. And so
Yes.
being traumatized.
I will say the same brother also told me that tadpoles can get you pregnant. That I did not believe because we played in a river often. That I was like, I don't think so.
Your brother, man.
I know.
Something, wasn't he?
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah, but I mean, I think when Jaws was such a like transformative movie, right? Like when we were kids, like we didn't see a lot of movies like that. And the graphics at the time were really quite impressive, right?
Yeah.
So I can remember being like, holy shit, that can happen, like, wow, I had no clue, because
Yeah.
I don't live near an ocean. Like there was no such thing as Shark Week. There was, and now when we watch Jaws, we are like, I can't even believe that imagery bothered me. It's so like ancient looking, right?
It is. It is. But back then, man, it was so scary.
It was so intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
was really scared of the Blair Witch, that movie
when
that
that came
came
out.
out. Yeah, that came out in college for me.
Okay.
And I remember there was like this little bit of area where people thought like this was real, like this is a documentary. And I had a good friend that was very terrified of the movie. And this is after everybody knew it was staged and it was fake. It was a movie, Um, and I was her RA. So I had a key to everyone's room. And so me, and this was my idea, a couple of girls, we got sticks. We made like the weird thing. We hung it from the door or from her ceiling. And then we also got a pile of rocks. And we put this like, so when she opened her door to go in, it was right there. And talk about a scream. She screamed so loud that everyone came out of their rooms, right? Not just, the ones that knew what was going on, everybody came out of the rooms, and, the four of us that had done it were on the ground laughing hysterically, and I had to get myself together because as the RA, like some of my residents were really scared. So then I had to like show empathy and say like what we did. And they all found it funny afterward, but it was crazy because, it was a mixed bag of emotions.
I wonder what that person thinks now, like later on. Is that something that traumatized them, or is that something that they find hilarious? Because sometimes we'll do funny things we think are funny, but other people do not like it. Like they're very traumatized. So I'm curious about that person, whether that that's something that they ended up thinking was funny, or is that something that they were like, I cannot believe you did that.
Yeah. So this person was Lex, and this person had either angry emotions or happy emotions. So this person was always angry about it. And I was always really happy to tell the story and make them angry because why not? So, so they were always like, yeah, well, it was horrible that she did that to me.
I'm just going to say, Lex, you probably deserve that.
Exactly. She did.
Oh my gosh. So Eric gave us a yellow heart, so he hasn't, but wants to. So I do want to also share. I recently met with Roxanne, and so I actually met with her previously as well, and it wasn't planned the first time. So I'm connected to Roxanne, and at first I didn't know she was a psychic medium whenever I first met her. And so her and we'll talk about that because we'll have her on. We'll talk about how it is that we met and everything. But I was connected to her on Facebook. And then she also has her Spiritually Being site as well. And she accidentally, technology wise, posted to her personal page and was doing it through that. And so I saw that, and she was doing readings for people. They just had to like type and speak up. And this was the first. Yeah, it was the first time she was like, she didn't realize that she realized later on she had done it to the wrong place, but I probably wouldn't have seen it had she done it
to the right place.
Because I wasn't following her company yet. I was just following her on Facebook. And so she came on and she was talking to people and everything. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to speak up. I'm just going to listen. And so I was sitting there, and she was like, if you want a reading, speak up, let us know. And so as time went on, I was listening to everything. I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and do it. And so I said, sure, I want it. And someone else had been in front of me and was waiting. And so as she finished the next person, she was supposed to take the person that was before me. And all of a sudden she was like, I can't give you a reading because I know that this particular reading is going to be for Sarah, because I guess my spirit had immediately stepped up and was wanting to like take, get in front of this other person. And so she started telling me that she was connected to someone. She told me it was a female. And I was sitting there and I was like, I started to sort of smile because I was like, she's not connected to a female. She's connected to my dad. And
he is very feminine. Yeah.
And I started laughing. And then everything she was telling me was related to my dad. And then all of a sudden she goes, oh, this isn't a female. This is a male. And finally realized it as she was giving me the reading. But I thought it was hilarious because when my dad, whenever I was younger, he would always answer the phone and everybody would say, yes, ma'am. And my dad did not have a feminine voice whatsoever. And he would get off and he was like, do I sound like a female? Like, why does everybody say yes, ma'am to me? And so I was laughing to myself when she said it was a female.
You just knew it.
I was like, it's not a female, it's my dad. And then she finally caught on and was like, oh, this is actually a male now. And she was like, this isn't a female. And so, but she connected with my dad, and I just had an amazing connection with the things that she gave me. And then I recently set up one with her to actually talk with her. She said that my dad had been with her all morning. And he was like jumping around and really excited for me and things like that. So he was just super excited about what it is that is coming up for me. And so I just thought that was amazing. And then my grandma came through as well. And she just said, love, 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 like that. She was a very just amazing, loving grandmother. And she was my step grandmother, but I never really knew her as my step grandma.
Right.
As I talked about on the previous show when we were talking about blended families,
Yes.
I just really knew her as my grandma. So she came through as well, and it was just a beautiful experience just to be able to hear from them and to understand their connection still to me on the physical plane. So.
Yeah. Myra and Eric, you really need to try this out if you're open to it, because it is, and Bruce too, because it can be so cool and exciting. For me, when I was a kid and I was seeing Kathy, this was a vehicle for me to learn more about my mother, Wendy, who had died when I was 1. Yeah. My dad, just the nature of who he is. And I think it's for a couple reasons. One, I think he has long-term PTSD from the deaths he experienced, because his mother and his wife died the same year. And, and his wife was a big, huge surprise, and he had infants, so it was a huge deal. So I had a hard time getting details about Wendy and understanding who she was. And so going to the psychic would actually really help me. And I could then have more pointed questions to ask my dad. And he was able to answer those, but if I said tell me about Wendy, he would be like, but if I could say, okay, this, So one of the times I showed up at Kathy's house and she swung open the door and she's like, thank God you're here. Wendy's driving me crazy. And I was like, what? And I was like, she's like, I think she must have been a really bad cook, because I can't do anything right in the kitchen this morning. And she's laughing at me. And I couldn't even make my pot of coffee, and this is one of the things where I came back and I was able to say to my dad, hey, was Wendy a good cook? And he was like, no, she was terrible. She could barely make a sandwich. He was like, it was really, really ridiculous. She couldn't make a pot of coffee. He said these things that Kathy had said. And it was so meaningful to me and cool to have this other avenue to learn about her,
That is awesome to be able to losing a parent, not getting to know them, and then being able to connect with them afterwards to be able to learn more. And so it's an
Yes.
amazing experience. And I think that I have found that I think that my dad is also here to continue to help me. Like he is
Mm,
on the other side, the spiritual world, but still is like overseeing and helping me
right.
through. And that's just, you know, what I have found. And so I know that a lot of people, it is interesting. I know a lot of people were taught, you know, that this isn't something that you're supposed to believe based on like religion and things like that. I just find it odd for people to feel that way when you really sit down and start to think about it, because isn't that not a God-given gift? Is that not a gift that, you know, you are able to help heal people by
Mm.
connecting them to people that they've lost? Why would that not be something that we're supposed to be able to do? So I just
Right.
wanted to sort of point that out, because here recently, one of the people that we had on the show, they grew up a particular way with beliefs, and they've started to believe differently. And people that they know are now ridiculing them and judging them based
Mm.
on them expanding their knowledge about the spiritual world. And I find that just very sad, you know. And they don't necessarily see it sad for them, because they're like, you know, look, this is your journey, this is my journey, and I agree with that. It just also is very sad when people feel like they have to judge someone. um,
Right.
and I'm like, that is not very loving. Like that's not anybody's lessons. That's not, you know, in
Right.
what someone may believe. I don't think that that's something that is a part of what you're being taught either way. And so
Right.
so I felt compelled to also bring that up, just because I think that we need to be more open as people, and realize that we may be brought different people in our lives for a purpose, and you may be closing something off that you may need, or you may
Hmm.
need to be able to expand beyond who you are today. And by
Right.
closing that off, that could be a gift that's being brought to you that you're closing off because you're so adamant that this is the way it must be, because
Right.
that's what you were taught. And I think it's more programmed as you were growing up, instead of being open to understanding other things and really thinking about it and feeling in your heart, does this feel right? And so,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a wonderful point. And I think um, our children are often born not judging, right?
mhm,
And then so just like superstitions and judgments, we're not born that way. We're not
right,
born superstitious. We're not born to judge people. We learn those behaviors.
yeah,
Those come to us later. But there's all this interesting um, research out there that kids are born and they are more connected to the other side than we are. And because they haven't been taught to be judgy yet, and because they haven't been filled with other beliefs, they are naturally open-minded.
yeah,
And this is something that my mom did teach me at a young age, because I always had like there were times when she remembers me seeing the other side,
mm,
and but there are people that are adults that, like, my wife is very clairvoyant.
mhm,
She sees ghosts. She talks to her mom and dad. She feels just like you, that they are there to support her and to guide her and to let her know that she's on the right path.
mhm,
And whether or not we believe in those things, I mean, I very much do believe that's happening to her. But whether or not you do, it's just like any other belief. You don't have to judge it. You can just accept that that's that person's perception, or that's that person's faith and belief.
yeah,
And and I am a big believer that almost all religions, just like you said, Sarah, they do not encompass a judgmental attitude. It's the people that are promoting it sometimes, that are asking for judgments, or asking for this negative aspect in order to prove your faith. And that's, I find that sad as well.
Yeah, and I think everyone is on a different path and a different journey. And
Right.
so just allow people to be who they are. If that
Right.
religion is helping you, great. But if it's also
Mhm.
telling you to judge other people, like really? Like why can't other people just live the way that they are? Just allow them to be who they are and find their path. And ultimately
Yeah.
that's what we both did. We were like, look, like this is the path that person needs to go down. There's something, because they were like, they shut them off and they were just like,
Adamant. Yeah.
yeah, they were like, basically you're wrong. They were telling them they're wrong and you're going down the wrong path, and just like constantly coming at them, but they didn't see that they were not doing it in love. And I said, I would ask that you evaluate whether your words are in love. She's like, yeah, it's in love. And I was just like, okay, like it's not, but
Yeah.
okay. And so it was just,
That's
and
her reality, I guess.
yeah, and my friend, appreciated me speaking up, and helping her, because this is new for her as well. For me, I've always been the type of person, as I continue to grow, I'm just like, you have your path, you'll figure it out, eventually. And it's funny, I
Mhm.
have seen some people, and even this person, she goes, I used to be you, like I used to judge people, that's what I was taught. And she's like, it
Yeah.
took
And you
me
thought that
really.
was how you were, how you were helping the world.
Exactly. That's exactly what she thought. She's like, I get it. She's like, I used to be exactly how you were. I used to judge everyone because I wanted them to know this was the only way. And she's like, I found, that that's not necessarily true. And so
Mhm.
I thought it was, she did it so gracefully and such in love, in sort of letting this person. And they were like, well, I can't be around you if this is the type of stuff. And she's like, all right, I release you. Like I understand. And it was a
Mhm.
very just beautiful moment of her just giving love back to the person, even though they were not giving love to her. And so
Oh, and that is so difficult to do.
it
Like
is.
I really admire people when they do that. Um, I don't get mad at people often, but I do struggle, especially initially, with that loving. I will set the boundary and then I will be like, well, fuck you. Like the rare times I have to set the boundary, if I set it, then, like, so it's an area I need to grow in. The boundary is a good thing, but I then need to transition to, a more loving place rather than a fuck you place, but I'm still working on it.
But I don't necessarily think the fuck you is necessarily a bad thing. I think,
Right.
like you and I talked about, sometimes you have that initial, like you've got to get that anger out. You've got to get
Right.
like, this makes me mad. Like you got to feel that
I'm
anger.
hurt. Right.
But then, step back. And this is what I've been having to learn as well, because my initial is like, well, fuck you, that type thing. And so, but I have to like step back, and I get into what we did last week, which is the wise mind. My emotional
Yes.
side saying fuck you, my other side is saying, well, Sarah, logically blah blah blah. And then I have to like find that medium ground. But it really is about stopping in the moment, not reacting, and
Yeah.
saying, okay, let me find the balance between the
Right.
two, and be more mindful in my response. It's really hard when you're in the moment, though, like you're
Yeah.
with that person. It's like, okay, now I've got to like stop,
Yeah.
like, okay, I have to stop before I just go off on you.
Yes. Yeah. And some of this comes from judgments and some comes from different beliefs, but some are just like people's perceptions are very different.
Yeah.
I was just talking about this with one of our colleagues actually, where, you can't control somebody else's perspective. So it's very hard when their perspective is different than your reality.
Yeah.
And and you can't help but want to defend yourself, but at the end of the day, if this is a relationship with someone you love, you have to hear their perceptions, react to their perceptions, and just support them. Like pointing out that your reality is different than their perception doesn't make them feel any better, you know? And so, it's in the same vein of, being open and treating situations with love and, seeing that they're on a different journey than you're on. But
Yeah.
it's not easy work to do. You have to put in the time.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
you
yeah.
absolutely have to. And it's a continuously learning from the experience of, okay, that probably wasn't the best. I probably didn't react the best way in that. And so I'm constantly evolving in my own journey. And I think that it's okay. Like, you give yourself grace as well. You give the other
Mhm.
person grace, and you come back and go, okay, how can we do this better the next time?
Yeah. Yeah. If you
But
treat everything like
it's also, will the person come back and be willing to do it better the next time? Like, then
right.
that's sometimes where you do, like, okay, like, okay, you're not willing to, like, understand my feelings, then that's a different story.
Right. Right. Like, do we want to problem solve the way that I feel and the way that you feel?
Hmm.
You know, do we want to be able to communicate more effectively
Yeah.
in the future, or do we want to just, stay in whatever, emotional mind that we are in?
Yeah.
I have found that with some of these tools that, that we have exposed or attempted to expose others to, along the way in our episodes, that if you put the work into to use the tools, even after the fact, like if you
Hmm.
say, okay, I did not handle that well, I could have done better in the
Hmm.
future, what would my wise mind have decision have been? You get better at
Yeah.
that. It's just like anything else, like riding a bike or whatever. If you get, so you don't have to sit down and make what are those called? A Venn diagram,
Yeah.
for like every single choice you have to make. Once you get used to doing that in your head after doing it on paper a few times, you get good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know
But
we
there's
went a little,
always,
we're just sort of shooting the shit, not necessarily talk about superstition, but I felt like it was something important to sort of talk about. I think it was on my mind.
yeah.
And it very much fit with sort of this different topic of things. And so I know, Kate, here we didn't have anything. We had something planned today, and we had to do something completely different. And it's just an amazing ability that you and I have, that we can just, like, talk about anything and we've talked for now over an hour. And so I hope that this provided you guys some entertainment, maybe some
Yes.
insight, and that you had fun today in listening to Kate and me as we were talking about superstitions and talking about psychics and talking about upcoming Halloween and movies and things like that. And so I do see that we are definitely at our time, Kate. And so it's been amazing. I love all the interaction today.
Yeah. Thank you guys for telling us your stories and letting us know where you're at with some of these topics. That was really fun. I hope this entertaining conversation and badassery and vulnerability that we showed today can help you kind of fuel your Friday and the rest of your weekend. And we will see you next week. We will be talking about the Goldilocks zone of thinking,
Yeah.
which is kind of, I think rounding out our different yin and yang types of episodes we've had lately, the masculine, feminine, the wise mind, so the gray and black thinking, we've talked a lot about these things recently. So we'll kind of round off our little series around this. And then we have some amazing guests coming up. And I know that we will be able to reschedule Roxanne.
Yeah. And then be sure to join us for Halloween as well. We actually have 3 guests planned. We plan on playing a game. And so it should be fun. They are off figuring out that game on their own. And Kate and I get to be the guessers for it. So we'll hold off and let you know what that is. But we're planning on having some fun on the 27th. And so we hope that you will come back to us. And I'm glad to see that the Facebook was working today. I republished it with a new link So I did the same for the Goldilocks. So I'm glad that that finally is working today as well. And so let me just come back real quick just to see. So Bruce gave us a purple heart. And so that's perfect for ending for today.
Yeah. One other little thing, guys, don't forget, we'd love to show off Halloween costumes. So if you want to send us any pictures, we'll create a graphic or a video with different Halloween pictures, and I would love it to just not be Sarah and our and me. You know, I would love it if some of you would be willing to kind of private message us some different photos.
Would love that, and then we can pull them up. So send us your best and funnest and scariest Halloween costumes that
Or
you
your fails. Yeah. If you have any fails, send them to us.
I love that. So thank
All
you
right.
all for joining us. Thank you, Kate, for quickly shooting the shit with me today and
Yeah.
for covering as I was having technical issues at the beginning.
No problem. I love our both of our abilities to pivot quickly.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you.